All right, we're live. And before I introduce the next guest, I just want to say to people who are trying to figure out marketing and digital content, all you need to do is just start off. If you have no money, starting from zero, just do outreach, constantly outreach. But the way you do outreach, just make sure it's not hard. Everyone's going for personality. And what I mean by personality is just soft closes and try to give value first. And for those that are on a B2B offer, organic podcast content is the way to go. You need to get yourself in front of the camera and just really break down and just show what your customers want and what other businesses want. Because without further ado, I want to introduce Cameron as our next guest. How you going?
Hey, Philip, really well, mate. Thanks for having me on. Really do appreciate your strategy, like exactly what you just said, going with that sort of soft approach. And yeah, you got my attention. We're having a chat here today, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And I'd say this, I'm not counting, but it's around my 11th episode. And I've finally got an Australian on. And I generally believe that we've got a different take in terms of strategies with marketing and just working online and when it comes to marketing and sales. So I'm really interested to hearing about what you have to say. But without further ado, for those that don't know who you are, Cameron, give us like a backstory about how this all started and what are you doing with Pointer with your business?
Awesome. Yeah, so a little bit of a backstory. I came from a pretty colorful sort of background. I've been in a few different industries, a few different career pathways. But a few years ago, I found myself in a position where I was selling. Started off in a B2C context, and I fell in love with selling. I fell in love with the art of selling, and I always sort of had that entrepreneurial edge. I like the idea of marketing ideas and selling and that art of persuasion and influence. And yeah, that led me into B2B sales, B2B tech sales. And that's where I met a guy named Ricky Pearl. Ricky Pearl's the owner of Pointer, which is the company I work for now. I'm not actually direct owner or anything like that, but I definitely wear my heart on my sleeve with this company and treat it like it is my own. We're a recruitment agency realistically, but to me, we're so much more than that. Pointer originally was an outsourced agency where companies would come to us, outsource their sales engine to us. We would hire people, train them, and get their often their first real outbound go-to-market strategy in play. Now what we're doing is we're offering sales recruitment, all packaged in with 12 months of training and support for companies that want the same level of support as someone that would outsource it, but they would rather do it in-house. And that's what we're here to do. And we thrive on sales. We love sales. We live and breathe it. And it's a little bit about us and what we do. I'm head up recruitment there. So part of my role encompasses anything from winning new business with clients, client engagements and interactions with our current clients, filling any roles that we have, but also building a sales playbook and building a recruitment playbook for this business to expand and grow.
Nice. I love to hear that. And the reason why I thought you were like really ingrained with the business is the way you structured your LinkedIn profile. It looked like you were like one of the top dogs in there. That's why I thought you actually owned it. But if you don't mind just sharing, what is the difference between any other recruitment agency and Pointer? And I did see your last post about feedback and some kind of teaching component and how that is going to give you some kind of edge, or if any other recruitment agency is offering some kind of teaching on top of recruitment.
Yeah. So we looked at the recruitment model and we felt that it was a little bit fractured. Sales is a really hard job to be successful in, and it's finding the right person is literally only a fraction of that person finding success in the role because as you know, like sales change, the landscape changes all the time. There's a lot of skills to develop. There's a lot of nuance to it, and there's a lot of pressure there as well. And so what we find is that sales organizations, the ones that really thrive, they have really fantastic enablement and training programs that help skill up and build up the confidence in their sales reps and give them the tools that they need to be successful. But for a lot of businesses, that's a luxury that they can't afford. Like, when you're a big, Fortune 500 or ASX 200 company, you can afford those luxuries. But when you're a smaller company and you're scaling and you're growing, you have to take a few shortcuts. And so using someone like Pointer is a bit of a shortcut, in my opinion. We have designed a model where we have really combined recruitment and sales enablement, and we packaged it together in one offer. So, like I said earlier, we'll help you find the right person, okay? But that's a small piece of the pie. We will then stick around for 12 months with that person and train them. That we have basically, there's a different session on every single day that they can come to, and they're built in for all different levels of skill and seniority across sales. And we will be there to support your rep in their skill development and in how they execute for your company to make sure that, at the end of the day, you want a rep that's on target. And if they're lacking skills or they're lacking, a small component that's just holding them back, and you don't have the internal resources to really provide them with the support, well, you're always going to struggle, right? And there always will be attrition. And part of sales is it's got a high attrition rate. And so part of what we're doing is just trying to help companies solve that problem by using us initially to recruit, but really just outsourcing a part of their middle management of managing sales reps and training and coaching to us, and we can help them. And it's working really well for the clients that are working with us. They're loving what's coming through, and some real success stories on the other side. And it's nice to be having that impact.
So to me, it sounds like if a B2B business was looking for this kind of service, is it more that you're nurturing talent or nurturing potential talent and turning them into maybe full stack salespeople where they can actually be either upskilling in themselves or just building like a repertoire of skills and experience. So when they do hit like a 12-month level, hopefully they stay with the company. Otherwise, it's both a win-win for the company because then the salesperson has a negotiation, has room to negotiate to be like, look, this is what I've done. I've got more skills. I can stay or I can leave. Or how does that all work? If someone was watching this, whether it's someone that wants to get into be better at sales through the whole recruitment process, or if a B2B offer was like listening to this, how does that workflow or work process go?
Yeah. So in the sense of we operate like any other recruitment agency in the sense that we don't hire the sales rep, that's on the company, right? It's still hiring internally through the company. And whatever internal processes you have, internal training, you might have your own onboarding, your own product training. We still encourage all of our clients to do that. But additional, when you hire through us, and so for a candidate, if you get placed in a job through us, then there's a plethora of sales training and support that we can provide you. So we just dropped and launched 3 weekly sessions for live call coaching, where we jump in a virtual sales floor with sales reps and we listen to their calls live to be able to give them, live and feedback at the time they're on the call and when it's really valuable. On top of that, we do, weekly sessions based on certain thematics around sales. It might be pipeline development, lead generation, could be closing and discovery. We've got a thriving sales community for reps to be able to learn from others who have paved the way before us. A lot of people in sales have got a lot of experience, have already solved the problems that we're talking about right now. And sometimes by just having a community where you can ask people the questions, you're going to get, a bunch of answers that are like, again, I mentioned shortcuts before, your shortcut to success. And so all of that combined as well with some mentoring and some coaching, it just creates an environment where salespeople get a real opportunity to thrive and succeed. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And it kind of comes back to what you were saying before about the attrition rate in sales.
Yep.
So has this kind of offer with your recruitment company, has that been iteration after iteration based on what you're seeing? or has this been established ever since the company got started with the mentorship and just growing talent?
Yeah. We're a small business ourselves, right? When I joined was when I joined Pointer was when we just started this recruitment model. And so it has just been, for us, it's a learning curve as well. And we are definitely iterating. The more that we learn from our clients, the more that we learn from the reps that we work with, we're building in new programs. We're developing our programs. We're developing our training. We want to continually improve and continue to add more and more value for our clients. Like I said, recruitment is a tough space, and part of the traditional model of recruitment, if I'm honest, is a little bit fractured. It's a little bit broken because the incentives are a little bit skewed. And so that doesn't always mean results. If you focus on getting the best person on day one, that's really good for a business. And we definitely want to find the best person that starts on day one. But what helps a business grow is finding the right person on day one, but having that longer term vision of how does this person look when you plug them into a really strong training and development program with regular coaching, regular mentoring. They have an online sales community they can access and an online sales portal for them to access, training videos. What does that person actually look like in 12 months' time? Because that's what helps the business grow. When that rep is 100% to target, the company hits their targets. But if that rep is over succeeding and they're 120% to target, that gives the company the runway to go, let's get another salesperson in and grow further. So we want a team of overachievers. We want to build overachievers in our sales team. And like I talk to sales leaders at the moment, we're filling a head of sales role. And even as a head of sales, those individuals are still highly invested in their own professional development and training because they know that's how you consistently overachieve. And you go from head of sales to being the CRO and then potentially a CEO of a company. And sales is a great opportunity for making money and for career and growth. And yeah, training's a big part of it. But yeah, to answer your question, always iterating, always adding new training to our program. And new elements to add new value to our clients.
Yeah, nice. And you raised the point about finding talent. And I did do some research and went onto the Point website and looked into the job vacancies. How are you filtering the pool of talent when you're getting constant influx of resumes and applications? Like, what are you guys identifying? Is it like a long, slow process where there's a lot of human touch? Are you adding AI to filter things? What's the flow when it comes to getting like a resume to the point where you're doing an interview and then placing them onto a company?
Yeah, cool. There's two buckets to it. There's the passive market, right? Sorry, let me start again. There's two buckets, right? There's the active market. They're the people that are actively on the LinkedIn job boards, on Seek and Indeed, looking around for a job. They might be out of a job at the moment, or they may be thinking about moving, so they're looking for a role. They're the ones that come through with the LinkedIn application, okay? And they come through with their resume. Now, what we do is we touch base with them. We have a very upfront initial video step, and that's a few questions for any applicants to answer with a short video. Like, I know you like video as a medium, and we're probably going to talk more about that today. But video is a great touch in this age because we've moved into an age where it's dominated by AI. That means that the written language, the written word, has less value and carries less weight than it did 5 years ago. And so the spoken word and the ability to be a human in front of a camera, that speaks volumes now. Like that's louder, much louder than a really good cover letter 10 years ago would get your foot in the door. Now you'd be lucky if that cover letter gets read past the first paragraph. So we add videos. And the interesting thing about adding videos, you talked about how we're screening it, how we're filtering. the interesting piece when you're adding video very early on is that the candidate knows that we've asked them to shoot a quick video that they have to commit some time to, they have to put themselves out there, and they don't actually know whether that's going to lead to a potential interview or not. So they have to decide. Now, there are some people that say to us, I'm not interested in doing the videos. I'd rather go straight to an interview because I know I'm good at what I do. Okay. And to me, that's maybe someone that we don't want our clients working with, because that's someone, to me, it sounds like that they are a little bit above the processes, or maybe doesn't want to put in work where they don't see they will get an initial return. Now, the funny thing is that's what sales is all about, right? Philip, that's what you're doing right now with us, right? We're taking the time here. You're taking the time to meet with me to shoot this video so you can create some content. No idea whether it will get you a direct initial return, but you're creating that content and you're putting yourself out there. And that's what sales is all about, right? You know, when you're a salesperson with an SDR or an account executive, you've got to go to product demos, run product demos, do discoveries, do cold calling. You've got no idea whether people will pick up the phone. You've got no idea whether people will buy, but you've got to do the action anyway. So adding that video step of just, hey, it'll only take you 5 to 10 minutes, but we'd like you to shoot a couple of videos to give us some more context about, you know, who you are as a person. And the people that want to do that are the people that get sales. They know you've got to put yourself out there, not knowing whether you get a return, but that's what it's all about. You just show up over and over. So that's our video process. And then from there, it gets a little bit more intricate. Then we start, you know, screening based on their competencies and how they articulate their value and things like that in their video. Outside of that, and I mentioned that the first bucket is the active market. Then you've got the passive market, which as recruiters is like, that's a very big bucket, because that's anyone at the moment who might not be actually looking for a job, but could be in a B2B sales role that they're selling to the same ICP, the same persona, or they could be selling one of the competitors' products. And there's every case for me to do some, you know, creative outreach, videos myself, or doing LinkedIn voice notes, but just connecting with them on LinkedIn and saying, hey, like, tap on the shoulder type message. Looks like you're doing really well at this company. I've currently got this role on at the moment that you'd be a really good fit for. Would you be open to having a chat? And, you know, that's almost like a sales motion in itself, because you're trying to garner interest in someone who wasn't expecting, you know, any communication from you. But that's sort of a little bit of the strategies there, and how we sort of go about that sourcing strategy, and that initial sort of screening phase.
Yeah, I feel like video by now, 2024, is almost essential, because we are changing so much when it comes to how working goes, especially how remote work is just rising. And a resume is just words. I'm not too sure how far that will get you. That seems like very old school. But with the rise of AI and automation, you're competing against people who have like a personal brand.
Sorry, is that still coming through? Sorry, Philip. I just had a call coming through, and it was coming through. So,
busy guy.
Sorry. Now it's gonna. Sorry, mate.
You're good. For those that are still watching this is what it takes just to keep hustling. Just keep it on record and don't stray away from the mission. Just make sure that the podcast still happens. The thing about podcast is it's super candid, it's conversational. And as I said before, as we keep rising into a more digital knowledge-based age, you want to separate yourself with authentic human interaction, because there's going to be a point where you don't know the difference between AI created content and human created content. And who knows, this bug, this mistake, that could be like a litmus test just to show that, okay, these guys are actually legit. Because I've been doing, I don't know if you've been scrolling around, but there's a new AI app called HeyGen. and it's like 95% there in terms of a talking head with a background doing shorts. So
Yeah.
if you need actual receipts to know that this is a human to human conversation, that was it. Now back to
Yeah.
the now back to
Yeah.
the now back to the podcast.
It's a good point. It's a really good point, Philip, actually, because sometimes I strategically in any of my like outreach and outbound activity, I'll purposely occasionally leave some mistakes, leave a spelling error or a grammatical error, because an AI wouldn't do that, right? And when I shoot videos and do that, it's very native. I'll stutter and and ah because an AI again wouldn't really do that. So it's that human touch is super important right now because it's getting lost by people, using AI. AI is becoming very good. So, yeah, it's a really good point that you make.
Yeah. I probably won't edit that part just to make sure that people know this is not AI generated. Plus,
Yeah.
I do want to mention about what we were touching base on about video. Uh, Video is pretty much a must or an essential now because if you don't have video, if you don't have a personal brand, you're most likely going to lose the application against someone who does have a personal brand and video and who is good on camera. Because I don't know what your feed is like, but on LinkedIn, people who have a personal brand, I don't know if you know who Tony Brophy is. He's like gone viral. He's an SCR. He's got a personal brand, and people are probably going to hit up his DMs, and he doesn't even have to apply for jobs now because people are just saying like, we want your attention, we want your marketing, we want your traffic, work for us, please. And I'm assuming that's what you're going through, like whether or not that you're asking them for like their LinkedIn profile and whether or not they can bring traffic because that's a negotiating asset to the table. Like, this is my personal brand. This is how much traffic I bring. Do you want to still work with me? I'm still classified an SDR or a sales rep, but I have a personal brand. Like that's so much the negotiating table that a lot of people don't know yet, which I do want to come to the whole premise of why I'm doing this. It all comes down to marketing because
Mm.
sales is super, super awesome if you've got good persuasion skills. But I generally feel like the thing before persuasion and getting the deal closed is if you're a legit 10 out of 10 sales rep or sales closer, people need to know who you are first. And that comes from
100%.
with video and that comes with a personal brand.
Yeah.
So the whole kind of question I want to come to now is your LinkedIn strategy and your LinkedIn process, because you are also doing video as well. And you are, I call it like a sales asset. I can't remember what you said on your DMs, but essentially you're providing value plus the video is treated like a sales asset because it's there forever, it's organic, and you're drawing in your ICP to see who's taking the bait or who's taking the bite or whoever's taking the call to action. And I think that's really smart.
Yeah. So the first thing, like with personal branding and why I think everyone should be doing it is probably like there's millions of people on LinkedIn, right? And probably only 1% of that are posting more than once a week,
Yeah.
right? So literally, if you just start posting once or twice a week, you're in the top 1% of LinkedIn, right? It's not that hard. And people see other people doing it and thinking, oh, there's already enough noise there. But like you can get on there and start making a hell of a lot of noise. And like to your point, yeah, like if you're a company and you're evaluating two different candidates for a role, and one had a bit of a LinkedIn presence and a bit of a personal brand, and the other didn't, I know where I'm putting my money. And then what is a personal brand as well? So for me, and the reason why I started on LinkedIn is I learned very early that it's not always the message, but the messenger. And so you need to have a presence or an authority to be able to deliver a message that people will want to listen to. So for me, that was just okay. Well, I just generate some content on LinkedIn. It helps me because it helps me solidify my thoughts, my thinking. I can just articulate the challenges that I've been coming up with and the solutions to those challenges. Helps that solidify that in my mind, keeps it as a document as well, right? It's content that I can repurpose and reuse. Any written form content I can easily go back to, and that becomes the script for a video piece of content. Like a short form piece of written content can become a long form blog post. A collection of written content can become a playbook or a guide. Like it's just important. Like you create these pieces of content, and you're literally leaving a trail of crumbs for your potential clients or your ICP, whoever it is, to learn about you and know who you are, but also know that when they're talking to you, they're talking to someone who's has some authority, has some even just has some opinion, they have some professional opinion, and they're willing to put that out there. Now, I had to think about my personal brand on LinkedIn at some point and going, okay, but what is the purpose of it serving? It can't just be an avenue for me to just put out there what I think I want to say. If I'm doing it as a B2B exercise, it needs to be lead generating and so forth. So for me, that very much looks like either winning new clients or finding the best candidates. So most of my content then goes into those two buckets. It'll be content that is positioned towards hiring managers and companies around hiring best practices, how to correctly interview. It could be training and development success stories of reps that we're placing to highlight the importance of training. And then for candidates, I do a lot of content on, the best resume templates and how to answer particular interview questions, how to negotiate the best outcome when you get an offer. And then all of that content there means that when I do reach out to, let's say I'm reaching out to a senior account executive who probably gets, a ton of connect requests from recruiters all the time, and they see my profile that's loaded with content of me trying to help other candidates, even if they're not going to take my role, they'll probably still connect and accept because there's some content there that might be interesting to them at some point. So that concept of messenger, not the message, is really important. And that's like a big reason why I was building my personal brand. And yeah, definitely think video now is a big part of it. And as well as just using images. Do you follow, I've got his profile up at the moment, Alex Sheridan?
No.
You'll love some of his content because he's all about video content.
Yeah.
Definitely check out Alex Sheridan. Someone else pointed him in my direction, and I've been following him ever since. Does amazing videos, and I think you see over the next, we're starting to see it now, and even the LinkedIn platform itself has really started to, redesign itself to mimic some of the other platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels. And video content starting to get a lot more engagement, whereas I was finding even just 6 months ago, which is not long, video engagement was very low, whereas now that's definitely turning.
Yeah. So for anyone that's watching, especially if you've got a B2B role, like if you're a founder or a startup, even just if you've got, even if you're an SDR, like you're still early to the game. Especially in Australia, they just recently have the video icon in your mobile app, which means that LinkedIn has just recently rolled in the For You page. I've been talking about this for the last 2 months, and I was getting ready for this. So I've got a library of video content for people to start binging, because ultimately the whole reason for a For You page and video is for you to stay on the platform, and for you to do that is to binge. And if you don't have a library to binge, people are just going to find someone else's personal channel to binge. And if you think about LinkedIn more so for business, people are looking to make money and people are looking to network. So you're still early to the game if you have not yet started yet. But I always say there's always a window. It's not going to last forever, because there's always going to be changes with other social media platforms and how LinkedIn is going to change. But for organic free traffic, like now is the time to get in and just build that muscle, just creating content, because we have absolutely no idea how long this window is going to last and how it's going to close. But let's just go back to what you're talking about with lead generation and outbound outreach, specifically on LinkedIn. We were talking just before about soft closes and hard closes, but can you tell me about your experience with what you're seeing on LinkedIn specifically for people you're interacting with? What is a soft close? What's a hard close? And how do you respond to those two?
Yeah. Good, great. I love this. I love this type of stuff, right? And I've been really digging into this a lot. And I'm working with a team of outbound reps here at the moment. And some of what I'll mention is like more phone based, but I think there's a place and time for a hard call to action, right? And a hard call to action is, can we meet on Tuesday for 20 minutes and have a meeting? That's like a direct action, right, that they need to the prospect needs to commit to. And the problem is when you're doing that, if you look at a buyer's pyramid, right, 3% of the people in your market are actually ready to buy right now. They're already looking for a product or a solution. And so those 3%, realistically, they should probably already be in your sales funnel, because if they're not, you've got other brand awareness problems. But then you've got 7% who are, open to buying. They've started to think about, okay, maybe I should look at a few different solutions. But basically, the other 90% are at very varying stages of readiness to buy and awareness. So if you try a hard call to action on anyone in that 90%, which is going to be 9 out of 10 people that you speak to, you can burn them because it's not ready. It's not the right time for that. Sales is like part science and creativity, but it's also a very big part of it is just the right timing. So I love soft closes, soft call to actions. It's just about securing a small win now, maybe a little mini commitment, and progressing things in a way that I can maybe take them from that 90%, that some stage of lower level of awareness or readiness to buy, and work them up into that top 10% where they actually will buy. And that's done through marketing. That's really a marketing job. And so to give you an example, like I'll reach out to candidates very, very politely and very softly with a message along the lines of, Philip, I can see that you're working at XYZ, and I'm sure you're probably crushing it. Your profile looks great. I'm working on this role. Probably you're not looking for a move right now, but you might also have a friend or know someone in your network that could be a good fit. Here's a little bit of information about that job. And so it's no hard ask, right? And the psychology to it is, if Philip really does like the sound of the role, he's going to tell me. He's not going to, even though I've framed it it might not be for you, but it might be for someone else, right? Even though I've framed it that way, if Philip likes it, he's still going to put his hand up and say, hey, actually, I would be interested in this. This looks like a great job. And we're having a conversation. But I've left the door open for just, hey, connect with me, because, we might share with each other's network, and you might have a friend who is a good fit for this job. And then I've also opened up the opportunity for a referral, which is super important. And so that's like my example in recruitment is a soft approach, right? Soft call to action. But in terms of like doing some real outbound at the moment, like SDRs are meeting booking machines. But like I said, going for a meeting isn't always the right thing to do. So I've just currently built a bit of a outbound campaign for our reps here at Pointer, and we're calling literally just to send an email, just to create some brand awareness. Like I've told the team they're marketing calls. Don't consider them as cold calls. These are marketing calls. And the idea is just to get your attention. We've got a really crafty opener, gets a bit of humor in there. And then we're just telling them a little bit, like basically letting them know that we exist, telling them a little bit about our offer. And then rather than try to push back against that resistance of them saying, just send me an email, we then pivot and say, look, we don't want to push you into a meeting. We just wanted to let you know that we exist. And if it's all right with you, I'd love to send you a bit of information. Get their email, send them an email, send them that information. And now we can then continue to drip feed them some more marketing content that will educate them about our services, about the problems that we solve. And based on the engagement that we get with that content, that gives us the indications of when it's the right time for the salesperson to reach back out and this time go for a little bit more of a harder call to action, because we know they're more likely to be at a higher stage of awareness and readiness to buy. That's just a little bit about what we do. Philip, I'm going to flip it here, and I want to ask you, from your strategy, right? Because I know you'll use this podcast here today to chop and edit some content. You've sort of got that soft, longer term strategic approach as well, by the looks of it. What's your strategy from here?
Yeah, so the reason why I've been doing soft closes is because they just generally work. And the workflow has just been going. Initially, I was just going hard because honestly, if you're doing organic and trying to do lead gen organically, it's a long game because you're building reputation. And the only reason why you go hard is maybe potentially for paid ads. But still, if I had money and wanted to do paid ads, I'd potentially funnel them to something free or like a lead magnet.
Yeah.
And I just feel like in our modern day world of buying online and a service online, if it's a B2C or B2B, people's buying behaviors come from binging, and binging is just another word for researching before you commit. Because if they're going to commit straight away, it's going to be like more of an emotional yes. I feel like it's still an emotional yes, which goes down to sales in the end. Even if they're logistical, they still have to binge and have to relate personally based on personality, and also if it makes sense to them, that's more the logistical thinker. But emotional buyers, I feel like in this day and age, they just don't want to say yes straight away, because you just have to have some kind of established nurturing process, which is what I'm seeing when I'm just doing outbound. I'll be completely honest, I haven't been doing outbound lately because I'm just juggling my other service that I'm trying to keep in the download before I release, but I'll definitely be releasing it shortly. But I generally feel like if you're in any kind of situation where you're not at a million annual recurring revenue, it's marketing. And for me, I generally feel like I thought in my head, my offer was to do a podcast and then charge. But now I'm seeing the podcast more as a free value lead magnet into short form to nurture and to see if that provides value first. And if that provides value, then I'll start going all in on the whole process of that, because I generally feel like if you're in a service-based business or if you're just doing anything remote, you just have to create bucket loads of content. And this is what's going to separate everyone who is in it for the short game, because content is a marathon, but you have to pace it as if you're on a treadmill. There's no sprint, because if you're on a sprint, you're going to be running out of ideas. But the whole idea of why people are doing 5 years, 10 years down the track is that they're recycling ideas and content that is going viral or that's blowing up. And that the way you know is you just have to keep testing. Once you've tested like at least 3 ideas, just recycle them in 3 to 2 months' time. And that way you keep it as a marathon. Because ultimately, you want to do this forever. The time when you stop is when you give up, and that's when you're like, retire or close shop. But that's pretty much my strategy.
I agree with you 100%, man. We touched on this very briefly before we hit record, right? We live in an information age now. Right? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the internet's really taken over this, but 20, 30 years ago, the salespeople had all the information. They were the gatekeepers of information, and buyers needed to engage with salespeople in order to gather the intel they needed to make a buying decision. That is not the case anymore, right? It's very different. Buyers now, they do all their research before they decide they want to engage sales. By the time they agree that, yes, I'll come to a demo, they're probably in their mind 90% made their mind up. And so this is where, like we're talking, this content piece and having this content out there is super, super important as a marketing and awareness piece. Because think about it, like you said, even LinkedIn's now built that For You page. Now, if I'm thinking about buying, even in a B2B context, if I'm thinking about buying a new piece of video editing software, or HR tech or whatever it might be. I start talking about it. My phone is going to hear me say it. It's going to pick up that. I'm going to be Googling this stuff on the internet. That's going to be tracking back into LinkedIn and back into Facebook and Meta. And then my feeds are going to start showing that content. So if you don't have content there, you're missing out on that, right? That's like you said, that's doing research and that those pop up. And all of a sudden, it's another thing is right. It's another touch point too. That's something else that I often talk about. They say anywhere between 5 and 6 touch points, probably a lot more, like probably more like 15 touch points to make a sale. Okay. Now, touch point doesn't like traditionally would be an email that I send, a phone call, like those types of manual actions. But a touch point these days is them listening to your podcast, them reading your blog article, them seeing your face and your video in their For You feed, right? They're all touch points that are building that process of them making the decision that they're going to buy from you. Content's a huge part of that. Like if you're not doing it, like wake up.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I do want to ask you, what are you seeing on LinkedIn at the moment, and what's your strategy for the next till the end of the year in terms of lead generation on LinkedIn specifically?
Yeah, I wish I had like a really good answer for this and a really good strategy, but ideally more video. I just want to be creating more and more video, getting that out there, and so I think strategically, we do a few long form video sessions at Pointer, and strategically, like it's just about chopping up and using what you're already doing. It's like you don't always have to reinvent the wheel and constantly be recording a new piece every single day. You could just be recording a long piece of media like we are, and you can get anywhere from 5 to 10 really good snippets of video for this. Definitely video. The challenge is like balancing the time it takes for you to create content versus what you get out of it. And that's one thing I like about video. I feel like I'm pretty good at writing copy and I love writing a good post, but they take me like 25, 30 minutes. So to do that at scale is very hard. And I don't like using any chat GPT because it just diminishes the value and it's very easy to spot GPT language. But like we said at the beginning, it's very hard to fake a really organic, authentic video. And the thing I love about video is I'm brave enough to do it without a script. So it means I'm brave enough to leave a few mistakes and a few ums and ahs in there. And that means that, like I said, we could shoot a video for 10 minutes. I can chop that into 5 different sort of slices, and all of a sudden I've got a week's worth of content. Now, I don't perfectly do that every single week. Otherwise, there'd be more videos on my profile. But that's definitely the strategy and what I want to be doing.
Nice. And that definitely ties into how I'm thinking as well, Cameron, because again, I was saying this before, like you're still early to the game, regardless if you're an SEO or a founder. You just need to start building a personal brand because we have actually no idea how long this window of opportunity of just free organic traffic is going to get to you because the algorithm wants users to stay on LinkedIn. And if they've just recently introduced this For You page, it's now time to create content now more than ever because if you compare it to other platforms, they've already got short form already and it's well established. So just watch and see what other people are doing. And based on what Cameron was saying, it's okay to be authentic, which means make mistakes and just do raw, unedited filming, which is what a podcast is. It will save you time and potentially save you more money because if you have to be budgeting, you probably cannot afford editors just yet. But it all comes back down to weighing the pros and cons. If you can show more authenticity and save the money and save the time, because you've got to balance marketing as well as fulfillment, just keep it raw and unedited, and then just look at your metrics. Because ultimately, when it comes to B2B content creators, we don't care about views and engagement. Yes, that does matter. But ultimately, as what you were saying earlier before, if you can close a deal, that's what we're most likely measuring because that's the thing that separates normal content creators because they care about views because they'll probably want some kind of sponsorship. Not a bad thing though. But for if you're in a B2B or B2C, you care about inbound leads. And if there was like a metric for that on LinkedIn, that would be so cool because then you can start to measure how good your content is.
Yeah. I'd say one of the things you can do, right, and you can just get the free CapCut app, right? And if you're not very confident at shooting video, you just shoot yourself 10-second little clips, right? Pressing record, pause, and just talking for 10 seconds and then stopping, compose yourself, say the next line, stop it, compose yourself. You do that, you get a 50-second video, right? It's actually puts together really nicely because it stops and starts and changes, which it sort of grabs the audience's attention when you do that. And like perfection kills creativity, right? Like that's so important. Perfection kills creativity, and if you're just trying to create perfect content all the time, what'll wind up happening is you won't put anything out there. And so something that's good enough is literally that. It's good enough, and just get it out there. And when you start doing that, like it gets easier and it gets easier. That's for certain as well.
Love to hear that, Cameron. I do want to respect your time, and I know that you're a really busy person. I do want to sum up with like definitely a call to action. So if anyone's watching this, and if I were to summarize this podcast, if you want to work with Cameron, make videos like ASAP and get really good at being on the camera. Because if you're going through the whole workflow process, even if it's not Cameron, if you're competing with someone that has a personal brand, it's going to be hard for you to beat because they've got way more on the negotiating table. And dare I say, if you've got more experience in them, I bet they'll take the person with more attention or who can generate more attention, which ultimately, I don't know if you would agree with me, marketing is so important right now when it comes to marketing yourself and also marketing your business if you're a founder. But what do you have to say to that?
Yeah. One of the things I always advocate, right, for this for candidates, do the job to get the job. And so when I get a really impressive candidate who applies on LinkedIn, but then they drop me a connect request on LinkedIn personally, send me a short video or a Loom, even if they're smart enough to maybe get a free Lusher account and find my number and cold call me, or that my mobile number is probably in an old post and get a cold call, like you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to be doing something a little bit different these days to stand out. But yeah, I mean, to summarize, yeah, video's definitely a very strong medium at the moment. It won't always be like that. It's just something that you could easily be doing now. It does help you stand out.
Awesome. Appreciate the conversation. Where can people find you and where are you most active on, Cameron?
LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like LinkedIn, people say it's a gold mine. It's only a gold mine if you can make it happen. So it's all about perspectives. I do appreciate you jumping on, Cameron. I love hearing your take and would love to have you on in the future and see where Pointer is in the near future.
Yeah, mate, I definitely would be up for that. I look forward to it. It's a
All
great
right, appreciate it.
conversation.
Catch you later.
Bye.